Welcome to another episode of Atypical Podcast, and that's atypical, not atypical. And we're going to be talking about some pretty cool stuff today, and thank you for tuning in. I have with me here Akil.
What's up, guys?
And Akil is literally one of the coolest kids that I know.
Thank you.
And I say kid, but he's like...
I'm a kid.
He's a kid.
The coolest kid is its own category.
It is its category. And so Akil is a student of Cooper Union in New York. You were born and raised in New York, right?
Born and raised Brooklyn, New York, yeah.
In Brooklyn, New York. And, I had to say that for you because New Yorkers will introduce themselves as being from New York every time.
Of course.
And he's studying mechanical engineering, third year in school. So this is your third year in school. You're going to graduate in
2025.
2025.
Yeah. I took one semester off from school. I started Cooper fall 2020, but because...
Why Cooper though? Why did you...
Why Cooper? That is a huge question. So I really wanted to go to Brown.
Okay.
And I was super, in high school, I was super independent. So I didn't really want to do anything that had a track. So I was like, at Brown, you could design your own major.
That's what I was going to say.
I want to do that type of thing. But my dad said I couldn't early decision to Brown because you did there was a financial thing, and the financial thing wasn't financing the way he wanted it to.
Yeah.
So he said I had to regular decision. So I regular decision to a bunch of schools, and my counselor just told me about Cooper. Said school that's very cost effective because it's known for being free, but it's not free anymore. So, but it's like $22,000 a year, which is really good for a private school education. Yeah. So I applied there, and I was like, okay, my second choice is Wesleyan. I want to go to Wesleyan and do computer science. I didn't get into Brown. I got into Wesleyan. Wesleyan was asking for $70K a year. Wasn't happening. And so Cooper, it was, I was like, okay, what's Cooper? Apparently it's like one of the best engineering schools in the world. So I said, guess I'm going to Cooper.
Generally speaking though, do people go to Brown for engineering?
No.
Yeah, that's what I was curious about. So
why engineering?
What? No, I'm just thinking if you were thinking about Brown, why? How does that align with your engineering type of mind?
I didn't know I was going to major in engineering.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, I mean, I knew I was going to be an engineer. I always wanted to be an engineer, but during high school, so many things was happening, and I was figuring myself out. So that was my kid dream to be an engineer, and then it kind of just folded into itself, and that's where I ended up. But in high school, I didn't really have the eye to want to be an engineer. I spent mostly in computer science. I spent, if anything, it was computer science, but it just kind of folded into that. So
to another thing that you said, which is very is going to end up being, I think, in line of where I'm thinking this discussion will go, which you may not go that way, but let's see. You mentioned that Cooper used to be free. Yeah. How? Why? So
it started. I'm not the biggest history buff of my school because there's people there that's generations. They know they dreamed of going to Cooper, but I know it was founded as an immigrant school, school for talented immigrants, very selective, the best of the best. But when you're going there, you don't have to worry about money. That was kind of the ethos of the school. But apparently financial trouble hit in 2013, and they switched it. And so at my school, there were huge. At Cooper, there were sit-outs, there was protests and stuff, which actually was interesting because that also happened at my high school when I was there, sit-ins, protests, and things like that.
Let's talk about your high school.
Yeah.
Let's go to your high school. So you had mentioned that you said to me that you were supposed to actually be probably in senior year now.
This is going to be my senior year,
but you took a semester off. Let's talk about that semester off.
Oh, and that connects greatly into my high school because that's where I was spending my time during that semester off. So I went to high school, Poly Prep, country day school. I got in there via a program called Prep for Prep, 14-month academic program, 6th and 7th grade.
Let's pause for a second. Poly Prep is top level.
Oh yeah.
Top level, one of those really good high
good schools. So the program Prep for Prep basically is, okay, we're gonna take undeserved children from backgrounds and put them into and give them an opportunity to go to these elite, like literally the best high schools in the world.
Yeah.
And so Poly is one of these schools. Poly Prep is one of these schools, and
you mentioned that Poly Prep costs about like
50 more, like $56,000 a year.
A year.
Yeah.
I went to Hopkins for masters, and Hopkins is one of the most expensive universities from like in the United States, and it's like $60,000.
Yeah.
So like it's wild to me that someone would go to high school and spend almost $60,000 a year.
And that's just like that's school. Think about it, that's one year for one kid. The people that send their kids to these schools, it's families, so it's like
3
they're up
kids.
to 4 kids, 5 kids, and they start nursery. So we're starting like 4 years old to 12th grade.
Wow.
So it racks up. But yeah, that's kind of the
so talk about prep and that the 14-month because that's also like this 14-month program. You had mentioned that it was running like concurrently with regular school.
With regular school. So I went to charter school, and I was basically after school I would go to the Upper West Side, like an hour and a half commute, go to school, then come back home. So I had like 2 workloads of homework. It was just a lot of schoolwork.
So regular school was what were the hours of regular school and what were the hours of prep?
The way prep for prep runs, it's 2 summers. So the summer going into my 7th grade, and then my summer going to 8th grade.
Okay.
And then the school year in between. So in the school year in between, it was Wednesday and Saturdays.
Okay.
So I spent my whole Saturday. I know on Wednesday after school at like 4. School ended early on Wednesdays. So it was like 1:30. I'd go up to Upper West Side, get there around 3. School from 3 to 9.
So you're like basically the flex here is that you're really smart.
I mean I don't think that's a flex, but yeah, I'm really smart. But
why don't you think it's a flex?
I mean, that's so subjective. That's a subjective question. You're really smart. Yeah, I mean, because the way that program runs, it's like you have to get beautiful grades. If you mess up, they drop you. They call it getting dropped. So imagine you're 6, you're and like your whole family's putting a lot of pressure on you because this is like an opportunity of a lifetime. So imagine these 13-year-old kids, their entire family's counting on them because if you go to this
is huge.
This is huge. And they're like, you cannot, if your GPA is too low, they say you're dropped. So these are my peers that I'm with all the time. If they're not doing too good, you never see them again. It's like,
okay, let's talk about because I'm trying to tie some things together in my head, right? let's talk about like so you went to charter school. What was your circle like?
Okay.
Pre-poly, right? Okay. Like what was the circle like? Because I'm trying to kind of paint a picture for myself of what this must have meant getting into poly, and then the switch from whatever your life was pre-poly to poly life, and how that like
informed.
I
think this is great because like I'm very into like I want to be a teacher, so like education before like at my charter school. So I went to charter school through like 5 blocks away from me, so it was literally down the block from me.
Okay.
It's part of charter schools called common schools, and I don't want to get too much into that, but honestly, like you go to school.
For those that are listening and don't know what charter schools are, I don't know if yours was the kind that had like a lottery system, but these are schools.
It was a lottery system. My sister got into the lottery system, but then I was able to get in through her because she got through with the lottery.
Okay, yeah. So like typically these are schools that are I won't even say sometimes they're like consortiums that come up with these schools. And they provide alternative education in places where kids may only have limited options per zoning and things of that nature. So some people have issues with charter schools, but generally speaking, it provides better options for kids.
It did. Okay. It did for me. It was through there that I learned about prep. Like they told me about prep. I mean, I didn't really like the school too much, like the way it was run, but I mean, when I was going there, you're around everyone that kind of looks like you, so it didn't really mean anything. Like I was just going to school. Going to prep, that kind of that was the first time I was like, okay, now there's this and this, because
let's start from like what was it like the day you found out that you got in? Or
I didn't know about prep, so it was like I was used to getting into programs, gifted, and I was in all the gifted and talented programs. So I was like, okay, I'm doing this now, and my parents, I didn't have that pressure.
Yeah.
Like, because I'm also the middle child.
Okay.
So it's not like...
And your parents are well educated too.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, they went to high school, but they didn't go to college.
Oh, so you're first generation...
I'm first generation college student. Yeah. My sister was the
Awesome.
first person in my family to go to college.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So, I mean, I was going there. Prep was a lot of work, but I'm not a guy that was like super reflective on like at that time, like my role in society, like my role in the space. I was just going to school, I was meeting friends, and I was like, I'm a 12-year-old kid, so I'm just like having fun. But actually, what they do at that program is like they teach you to start dividing the world and looking at things a certain way. So start mapping out this kind of other. They start creating this like definition of others. Like, okay, you guys are the select few. You guys have an opportunity.
Talented 10th.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And that's when I started thinking about things that way. So that introduction, that's when I started thinking about my relationship with school. And like, they're like, okay, this school you're going to, it's the best opportunity ever. So again, kind of like making those divisions. And then so basically throughout this 14-month, it kind of grew inside of me, this idea of others and making separations between myself. Yeah. I mean, but I still had fun. But like going to Poly is when I got that.
That's so well Poly.
Shock, but I took like, it's not a bad shock at first, but the shock is like, okay, first of all, this school is an hour and a half away from me. Like train ride. So I take the R train, I take the C train, then I take.
So it wasn't a boarding school. It's a day school,
country day school. Yeah. But it's in the crevice of Brooklyn, like literally the tiny part of Brooklyn. Yeah. So you have to. It was a long commute for me. But I was used to taking the train because I used to go to the programs there. Mm-hmm. But first thing about Poly that was really huge is like you're on a campus. I used to have one floor. You know, and the school body is not huge, but I'm on a campus. We have geese on campus. There's rabbits and chickens running around. You know, it's
like a college campus.
It's literally a college campus. We have multiple buildings. So.
And that's crazy because like New York is like limited space, and then you have like this huge with like
campus, 26-acre campus.
Wow,
huge campus, and like there's sports, swimming, like everything you could like. So I'm like, this is awesome. You know. I started my 8th grade and I noticed, okay, obviously there's a lot of, you know, kids that aren't black, right? But I noticed like people like to say, okay, these private schools aren't that diverse, but it's not true. That was the most diverse place I've actually been in because at my middle school, everyone looked at me, everyone lived around me. But at Poly, you know, people are coming from all over the city because it's one of the best educations you can get.
Interesting.
So although I'm not surrounded by a lot of.
So they may not be racially. Are you like trying to cut the divide between racial diversity and like diversity, period?
Racial diversity. Like at my school, there was Latinos and then there was black people. But now I'm at school I didn't have any Asian friends in middle school. And think about my brother didn't go to prep. My brother's a year younger than me. He didn't go to prep. He didn't have a single white friend until he graduated high school, which is bonkers because I like those were my peers at Poly. You know.
So what would you say the percentages are like? I'm just trying to like have a good image in my mind. Like at Poly.
I would say say there's 10 students in a classroom, 5 white. So like half the school's white. Okay. I think. Maybe I'm getting them wrong, but that's the way I remember it. Half the school's white. Two black kids, 1 Latino kid, and 1 Asian kid. Okay. So, and the thing about being
diverse,
being black at Poly is that a lot of the African American population was sports. So a lot of like that camaraderie, I don't like looking at it like that way anymore, but a lot of camaraderie I felt was with these kids that are there for football because it's a huge sports school.
Okay.
So these are the kids that's coming from Brownsville, Bedside, where I'm from, and they're at Poly, and I'm like this little 5, and I'm hanging out with these huge guys.
Yeah.
But it's because we take the bus together. So
basically, the only other like Black or Latino kids that you could hang around with these kids that were there for sports
and kids from prep. So a lot of kids from prep actually came to Poly too. So
got it.
I mean, I like to look at it positively. I like to look at
relative diversity in a way, relative.
I thought it was pretty diverse.
Even with the white kids, you had mentioned to me before that you had like people.
It's not just
kids,
white.
Yeah, there were kids from like
even around Brooklyn, Upper East Side, Upper West Side, the neighborhoods, the demographics are completely different. Culture is completely different.
Yeah.
Even where we are, it's heavily Italian. Like Bay Ridge is very Italian. So even and their type of money is very different from Upper East Side money. So even like it's diverse. It's not just like one. It's not white. And I think I learned that pretty early on, and I didn't come in like very anxious as many people did, you know. So
did that make you feel any type of way? The fact that like, and you talked to me about this before as well, like how you had like the people that were like family rich, but not like cash rich, and then the kids that were like. Yeah, and the ones that were like family rich, you're talking about billions, right?
Yeah.
And then there were those that were like, cash rich kids, which, maybe the parents were like millionaires, not really billionaires, but they had access to like the things
just liquid money. Like the parents just gave them money.
So what being in that environment, like what was that like for you? Like,
okay, so yeah, I mean, like my parents were very upfront with me. They were like, Akil,
your parents are like your first generation Americans.
First generation. My parents are from Trinidad. So
okay.
They're like, Akil, my dad always tell me, you're here to Poly for is what you do at the school. From 8th grade, what you do at the school. It's not the school you go to, it's what you do. Don't leave. He always said this.
Orientation.
He said, don't leave Poly being a one-hit wonder. Like you just got into Poly. He always told me that. Don't leave Poly being a one-hit wonder. And so basically what that kind of translated into and how I was relating with everyone is that like I kind of knew that I can't be careless with my opportunity in terms of a lot of these students they could be a little careless, but not really, because believe it or not, the billionaires, the millionaires, these kids all value their education. There wasn't many kids that were just there to. That's not the impression that. Which is
people are giving us out. Yeah,
but they're very like the kids they're very mature, because like they're the ones doing their education. They know, okay, I have to take this
really
class.
Interesting.
And this is 8th grade, 7th grade. They're the ones like, I have to take this advanced course to set myself up, because that's what I noticed. They're college minded from a younger age, and not in my charter school, it was like, okay, we're preparing you for college, but without giving you the agency that college gives you. So they're like, this is how college is, and you're just gonna give you work. That's how it was at my charter school. But at this school, they're like, okay, you have free time. Like they're giving 8th grade students free time, because I guess they have the resources to contain that.
Yeah,
we're giving you resources, we're giving you options to choose your meals.
Yeah,
that training, you've been having that since 5th grade. 8th grade, you can say, okay, I want to take this class. I can design my schedule this way. And those are things I had to get used to. Like having that agency where I can be like, okay, I have time. I can stay back after school for 2 hours and have 2 hours to myself.
Like what you're saying kind of reminds me of a little treat. I don't know if it was a book or part of it that we read in college called Pedagogy of the Oppressed. And it talked about how the way that certain communities are educated is different than the way that those that will make meaningful impact in the world are educated, period.
100%.
And that those fundamental, seemingly small things, those like you mentioned, like the liberties to choose and stuff like that, like how those things, and even the responsibility that's given early, how those things become determinants of success. Meanwhile, the one, the kid that goes to maybe the kind of school that I went to for undergrad, is not coming from a background of that kind of like responsibility. You know, like the responsibility for my education is not on me. It's on someone else. And if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. You know, but yeah.
That I think that's exactly, and you know, even like I just finished my first real teaching job, and one thing I learned is like student initiative and student agency is how students learn. And I think that's at Poly, that's when it was first introduced to me.
That's amazing.
Yeah, having time and having the ability to say, okay, I want to do something. Like, and, you know, they treat you like college students in 8th grade. So you have office hours in 8th grade. You know, they say go to your teacher. Having tutoring, I mean, obviously they structure in a way where it's like not bouncing around, but you know, I had free time. I had 2 hours. There was an early bus and a late bus, so I can say, hey, mom, dad. And you know, at that time, I'm an hour and a half away, so my parents started giving me way more freedom.
Yeah.
I'm taking the late bus.
Yeah.
2 hours to do whatever I want, right? At 8th grade.
And with the resources available,
computer lab open,
whatever it is that you want.
Pool, weight room. So I got into lifting a lot. But with the football team, that's how I was spending a lot of my time after school.
Sorry, I'm trying to even not to take you back, but you made a statement that I really want to highlight. You said student initiative and student agency is how students learn.
100%. Yeah.
So, did you ever was there any point in time, because I mean any Black person or person of color listening to this would be interested to know, did you ever have any racist encounters, be it like subtle or overt? Like, did you ever have that?
Personally, I don't think so. Like, personally, maybe I didn't recognize
maybe you're just not mindful of it.
Yeah,
right?
but I really, like, I wasn't, I feel like to recognize those things, you have to be taught those things and trained to notice those things. And my parents, those are foreign concepts. And like, my family doesn't sit down and say, okay, discriminations and racism. They never taught me what that was.
Interesting.
So I never saw it at my time. Like, I began to see it when I began to get taught that at Poly by whether maybe like to be a Black student union. They're like, okay, this is actually not okay when someone does this to you.
Oh, okay. So there was a Black student union at Poly.
Yeah.
Okay, so
I bumped heads with them so many times in my time at Poly.
I want to explore that, but I'm thinking something very interesting here now. You mentioned that you weren't aware of it. Because you weren't taught to be aware of it. Is that? Do you think? Because some people will argue that that's disadvantageous. Like that's.
Oh no, it was so advantageous because especially at that age, even if something is done in ignorance, it's done in ignorance, like really. And even if it was done intentionally, in hindsight, I can say, okay, even if it was done intentionally, this is a child that needs to be taught. This is a school. Students were taught that, and it held them back. The brilliant students coming from prep.
Wow.
My same contingent taught those same things, held back mentally, hated coming to school.
Wow.
All these opportunities in front of them, didn't want to participate because of this fear of this.
This is wild for me, and I'll give you like context. I went to a historically Black college.
Okay.
And I love my school, the illustrious Morgan State University. For undergrad, and it's like what you're saying is like the exact opposite of what we're raised to think. But what you're saying still makes sense to me, even though like there's the part of me that's like fighting it. But then the fact is, what you like, I'm thinking more like the practical sense, right? If the outcome was better for the one that was ignorant of, or if let's use the word ignorant, right? Let's say the outcomes were better for the one that was ignorant of racism towards them or around them, whatever the case may be. Isn't that preferred, right? But then, so that brings me to another question. how does that then like affect you in terms of dealing with like the culture and the community? And what do I mean by that? There's this feeling in like the Black community, or amongst people of color, that the proverbial talented 10th that is supposed to lift the rest of the people of color up, end up finding themselves in spaces that are so exclusive, so elitist, that they develop that
oppressive,
not really oppressive, but more of like elitist mindset in such a way that I have earned this.
They become perpetrators,
and then the rest of you, I've earned this in spite of everything that you said.
Mm-hmm.
So the rest of you, pull yourselves up by your bootstraps, and do better.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people are, and this is the conversation, right? Akil, this is the conversation, and the rest of the people are feel somewhat betrayed, dejected, and like, where does that leave the community? Like, you being able to look past it, maybe ignorantly, or let's even say positively trained by your parents, let's say, to like overlook that, being able to look past it and become who you became in spite of it, and the others being pulled back or held back. Like, how does that impact the community?
I think what I like to say first is that my experience wasn't so much, I want to like not redesign, but restructure what I meant by like ignorance. It wasn't like I saw things that I was like, okay, that's obviously not okay. Like, I learned about redlining, I learned about all of this, even in prep. I learned about how to negotiate, like, okay, this is the school year. I wasn't ignorant of where I was going. I knew that these things existed. I just don't think I had, and I'm going to say tool. I don't want to even say it's tool. I didn't have a reaction built into me that was like, okay, this is how you respond. This is how you respond. It's the response. Because a lot of students were taught to respond and even make it reflect on yourself or accept thoughts, because what at that level, it's a lot of microaggression. So it's a lot of, okay, big thing, parties, hangouts. That kind of got to me because you with these kids all day at school, but when it's time to go to the Hamptons on the weekend and all these things, you're there at home, or there's the parties at their house. That was something, right? And
microaggressions like that.
Yeah, and then looking on, like, you're at home on a Friday night, you said bye to everyone, and they're all hanging out, and you're an hour and a half away. It makes that distance. And how I related to that, I mean, I had my friends like that were more people of color too, and we just would get on a call together and really have a great time.
And they were also like prep kids. Poly kids.
Yeah, they're also poly kids.
Okay.
And it's not everyone. Yeah. Like, it's easy to have that experience and think, okay, everyone's like this, but it wasn't everyone. I didn't make assumptions, and I didn't categorize things. Okay, racism.
Yeah.
Some person didn't like me. Maybe this person has issues. Like, maybe this person has their own thing going on. Yeah. Maybe this person, like, I didn't just say, okay, this racism. This I just didn't categorize things in that way because I wasn't taught to like. That's not what I was given. Those are not the tools I was given to understand the world by. And yeah.
Still speaking about community, right? Did you keep any childhood friends?
No.
Okay, so let's talk about that.
No.
Because see, and where I'm getting at is, but this is really good conversation for me because I'm learning a ton.
Okay.
I'm learning a ton. Because the expectation with the community is always you go up, you help lift. Right? And the expectation by many is that, like I said, like we've seen people go up, but they don't. Now, there's also a complete flip side to this where it's like there are some who also go up, and by trying to associate back to the community, they get dragged back. I mean, some even to the point of in certain communities, depending on how bad they are, get even killed, right? Just for trying to help out in the community that, they left out from, right? And you're this is not saying that your case is that at all. Like you're not a made it out of the hood situation, right? But like just like flip it to like rappers and stuff, like made it out the hood, but then somehow the hood still takes his life, right? So there's that extreme like negative of it as well, but there's also the extreme, on the opposite side of the expectation that made it out the hood never came back. So do you feel like there should be a middle ground? Do you feel like there's any like what do you think about that whole like? And I know it's like this is like super early. You're a third. You're like a third year.
These are things that I'm thinking about now.
Yeah.
This is completely on topic. I think that is a that's such a multifaceted. I don't even want to say problem, but it's a multifaceted concept. Yeah. And I mean, I still live. I moved once in my life and it was 3 blocks in the other direction. So I still live there, and I just to answer the question about having friends. I mean, I still have people on Instagram, but it wasn't there that I really built those friends that I was going to have for a long time. Especially because it was like 11, 12.
Oh yeah.
Like we're so young. Yeah. I didn't have a phone. Like it's not, but I mean, I have people on Instagram now.
Yeah.
But it and also like I can say like I didn't like the way that charter schools run at all. Like I didn't really get to know people. I didn't really get to have that experience. It was very restrictive. They ran it like a prison.
I was about to ask you that. Did they like?
No, it was like you can't talk.
Oh wow.
If you talk 3, like they gave you demerits. Like if you talk 3 times, demerit, detention, rest of the week. My brother got suspended from my school so many times. I got suspended. It was like a norm for people to get suspended. You can't talk back to the teacher. You can't use the bathroom.
And I feel like that does something to a kid's mind.
It does something to the mind, and it's bad. It's horrible, right? So I still see homies from the school like walking down the block. You're like, yo, this is the kid that went to poly. Like they know me as the kid that like left because I left halfway through. I didn't graduate from that school. So, but I think in terms of giving back, like what that looks for me now, I give back in the ways that make sense to me. Like I don't go and ask like, go on Twitter, say, okay, I have money now, or I have this type of influence. What do I do with my influence? The way I really gave back to poly, I really, really did give back. But the way I did that, I mean, after I graduated, when I took a semester off of school because I was going through so many things, my parents told me to get a job. You have to get a job. And I was like, I'm not getting a job because I was working on music so much during that time. I was really into production because I was putting out my second album. I wanted to get a Grammy, and it was huge for me. So my parents were like, you have to get a job. If you're not in school, you're getting a job. And so I said, what can I do? What can I do? What can I do? So I went and called like the director of communications. And so basically during that time, right before then, when I was in school, me and my friends we started this like arts collective called New Kids. And basically what we do is we'd go in the streets of New York with our speakers, skateboards, and we just freestyle. Me and my brother freestyle for hours and make some money. Hours. Like Tuesdays and Fridays, we leave 6 hours on the block freestyling.
Wow.
Straight. So
and you had a recent video that blew up as well. Like you randomly did a freestyle,
which is funny because when we were there all the time. Like this is work. Like 4 kids, and my brother went to the high school version of my charter school. So it was like he was there the whole time. And then even one of his friends, he recruited one of his friends.
Wow.
So, and then I recruited my friend from poly. So in that little hub, there was this melting pot. And we were rapping to make some money and make a name for ourselves. Basically, we did that for like 4 months. Made some money, we bought these huge speakers. We built ourselves to a point. But when it got cold, we couldn't be outside anymore. My parents was like, and that's when I took my semester off school going into 2021. And I was like, what do I do? So I said, I called my director of communication. I was like, I have this collective. We can make content for your school. let's make content, because I built this whole thing outside of Poly. You know, we have videos, we have Instagram, we have influence, we meeting with all these famous people. Like, we have something, let's do something. They were like, yeah, let's do it. So they basically paid me $13,000 to run a social media campaign for two months. $13,000. And I was like, okay, how do I do that? I'm not a student there anymore. While I was at Poly, I was close with the freshmen, and some of the freshmen did videos and stuff. I said, hey, can you just help me on this project? He didn't have anything to do. Student agency, student initiatives. I said, hey, but he's such a talent. His name is Nakash Kana. And he still does music videos for me to this day, but he had such a beautiful way of showing faces. The school system doesn't know how to look at that. The school doesn't know how to look at potential.
Yeah.
Schools don't. So I said, you know what? I can do this for you. I went to school and I was like, okay, Nakash, what I'm just gonna do, just gonna hang out with you all day. And he just made his videos, and I presented to school, and they were just paying me for literally doing nothing.
Did Nakash get paid?
But it was my service, because what I was doing, I was basically like, because it wasn't just him. I said, I got some students, I put them together. I said, okay, what we're gonna do, we're gonna do a mixtape. So I basically made a program.
Yeah.
And we would meet after school, we'd meet outside of school. And basically I was running an after school program. And I made money by offering that. And that's the way I sought to give back. So
that's a very relative give back. Because someone's gonna say, well, you're making money and the kids are working.
No, but now they take their stuff seriously.
I get what
One of my producers just got into, his name is Damien.
Yeah.
He produces for me, just got into NYU for music. He thanks me to this day. He said, Akil, if it wasn't for New Kids,
no, that makes sense.
I wouldn't have done it. I wouldn't even have known.
You know what someone said to me? This dude, so I met this guy. I was like interviewing people, great, amazing person, amazing guy. He used to be on Wall Street, and he got into some trouble, went to jail for some time. And he went from like driving Ferraris and like owning a ton of stuff and just like being that guy, that Wall Street guy, to like losing literally everything. Like lost everything, had to start his life from scratch, and lost friends, even like people just didn't want to associate with him period anymore. And he had to build his life back from scratch in terms of he said he received a calling because he realized that when he got out of jail, it was like the whole world was set against him. And he said that was when the calling clicked to him, that there were 70 million others like me, like himself, that were previously incarcerated, that don't have a future. And he went to try to help. But how it connects to what you were saying is, because I was joking that, you're helping them, but you're actually making money. But he made it a very valid point. He said that he discovered that the best work that's done for what people will call like non-profit-ish type of space is work that's done for profit. He said he discovered that the non-profits that were trying to tackle the problem were not moving the needle. Because there wasn't enough motivation, there wasn't enough, and he said the space in itself didn't attract the best, the most motivated, and the best talented people. Exactly. Those minds went to a different line of work. But I thought that was mind blowing, and so he had started off doing his work in like non-profit type space, but then he ended up like doing it more on a for-profit way, and he made more impact doing it for-profit. So I'm just saying that to like. Emphasize that, and I've experienced this myself as well. There's a lot of, let me not use a word that will offend some, but non-profit work to help the community, as it were, doesn't end up doing as well as people think.
And I think an excellent point to make, and it's great that I'm having this conversation because I've been working on something very I've been kind of keeping it under wraps, but like the non-profit work, for-profit work, even for-profit schools, for-profit. I mean, the experience I had at a for-profit school was
better than
amazing, because they had the resources, they had pull, like they could make things happen. Like I went to Martinique for free. I was gonna go to France. I was gonna travel to France for free.
Wow.
Like, and they weren't making it based on my family's financial thing. They weren't doing a financial aid, but they said, okay, we have the money. You know, you asked for it, we can give it to you. You know, even just that New Kids project, such a pivotal moment in my life, because I was very upfront with them. I said, guys, you know, I'm getting paid for this. Like, it was like they were my friends, so it wasn't like I was like, you know, puppeteering them or anything. But I was like, the reason why I'm doing this, I'm going to show you guys that this is possible. Like anything is possible. Because when I was at Poly, you know, in my high school, like we talked about that's my 8th grade, but in high school, what it really was like for me, I felt so alone because one, I was taught, you know, to look at things with lines. It taught me to like isolate myself. Like, okay, it's good that, you know, there's these white kids, you're different and you're smart and you're gonna make a difference. And
that's that prep for prep lesson coming back, right?
I don't even think it's so much as prep for prep, because even I began to reject prep because I felt like, okay, they just dropped me in this place and I didn't have a support system. Even though there was, I felt like there wasn't. And I just began to distance myself from everything around me. By junior, senior, I mean, my friends weren't going there anymore. And then that's when a lot of these racial like manifestos began to come
with the BSU.
Yeah. Well, it's because I mean I never like necessarily went and said, okay, there's these black. It was more about me than it was about black versus white. I just felt alone, and that loneliness manifested itself with girls, with race, with things I liked. You know, it never really became, okay, I'm black. I was on the swim team. I was the only black kid on the swim team. I mean, that was home for me. That was home for. There was no like. I didn't even. You know. There was never a point where I was like,
black people don't swim.
Race, like. But even like there were jokes. Obviously, there were jokes like that.
Yeah.
But like they were my brothers. You know, I never really saw it as like, okay, there's the other person. Like the skin really divided us. So. But that loneliness, and it grew so big. So even after I left Poly, it turned into such a deep depression.
Let's before we get to like after Poly, were there kids that did drugs?
So yeah, I mean, I didn't do drugs, but
I was gonna ask you that next.
Yeah, junior year, senior year, high every day. I was high for 2 years straight. 2 years straight. Not a day. I don't think I took breaks, but
what drugs did you do?
So at my school there was those pens, the wax pens, the weed pens. So I used to. Okay, this is Pastor Deji's podcast, so I get to say this.
Say it.
It's an inside scoop. So basically, at my school, there were these. It's called carts. So basically, there's like these wax THC pens, and you put it to a battery, and it heats up the oil, and you can breathe. Like you breathe in.
Oh, like kind of like
it's
the
like
weed.
A vape,
but
it's like weed. So I took my first one in sophomore year of high school, and I was a very functional. Very functional,
functionally high,
like very functionally high. Like so, I just used to go to school high, and that was a big thing. I think that's still a huge thing.
Who introduced you to it? Was it don't drop names, but
I don't know, probably at a party. Like I knew it was like people were in my freshman year there was like a Juul, so it was like nicotine, and then obviously with the nicotine there was like, okay, now there's the weed one. So I don't remember who did it, but like I remember I got my first one. And we were supposed to go to a party, but my parents didn't let me go to a party, so I basically just had it at home. And I was like, okay, this is kind of fire. Like, I was like, let me just have my fun with it. And
2 years later,
that kind of exploded, right? So I just started doing it more, and I was like, I can just go to school high.
Did any kids ever do coke?
Yeah, kids did coke. The first time I saw coke was actually recently. Mm-hmm. So I didn't see any coke in the high school though. Yeah. I only saw, it's just drinking and weed. But kids in my school, they did coke, they did everything.
Yeah.
But I never was around that in high
Yeah.
school. It was just weed and alcohol.
Yeah.
But in my junior year of high school, my junior year of high school, basically I was used to smoking by that time, and I was used to buying it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I basically was like, my brother, I was like, yo, I got this. I gave it to him. He was like, yo, this is fire. Like, and he was like, can you get me one? So I got him one. And this is so funny. So he goes to school, South Shore, which is like one of the worst schools in New York. Like the building itself, because it's in Canarsie, he goes to metal detectors every single day to go to school.
That's what
Think about the divide. Like, I'm there going to ponds and geese, and he's going to a metal detector every day. And it's like the upgraded
And for the sake of
version.
those that don't know what that is about, like metal detectors are there in certain schools, quote unquote, it's a
stop
protective measure
weapons.
to stop
People were
weapons.
bringing weapons in at school. At lunch, someone got slashed in the face at lunch, and people were just like, "Oh, that happened."
Just another day.
They jumped the principal. The principal left because they got the principal got jumped by the students. But that's another story for another time. But basically, that cart culture was kind of like private school. So brother,
he took
it. He was like, yo, he showed his friends. He was like, yo, they were like, yo, cop one. But at this time, me and my brother are like getting close, like actually close. So, and the way we're getting close is so before I did music, I was very into video editing and green screens. I used to make these skits and things. So basically we were like, okay, we need equipment. We need to fund this thing. So basically what we do, I'd cop like an order of 10, like not an order of 10, maybe like 5, right? And I was buying it like 50 a cart. So that's even super expensive. But then we do this thing where we market it. We make sure we were like, yo, we have this thing premium. We call it premium. But think about it's metal.
We were dealing.
Just
I'm gonna name this podcast "Talking to a Drug Dealer." Ex-drug dealer. But you're still dealing. You're dealing a different kind of drug right now, though.
Yes.
But we'll talk about that shortly.
Yes. But basically, we would go and they didn't know anything about that, so we'd say, okay, this is premium, $70, $80. We'll bundle it.
Whoa.
We'll basically these bundles for them. And these are two smart kids. We're smart. And the thing, it's a battery and a cart, so it's like sometimes the battery dies, so we need to get a new battery. We get bigger batteries, charge it for more money. But the thing about it, he has to go to metal detectors every day. That whole thing is metal. So what we do, we take highlighters, pop the thing out, get the stuff out, and put the carts in the highlighters. So, and he put it with all his pens. So basically he was going in and out of metal detectors every day with
and so it's covered in the plastic.
Even
highlighter.
if he goes to metal detectors, it's with a bunch of pens. So what are they going to do? Take out all your pens and throw away your pens? So he was going to that every single day for like half a year. We made probably I want to say $600 for like a couple months of dealing. But basically that was how we funded the beginning of. So this is my brother's brand right now.
Pretty Girls Go to College.
And I say the first start of us working together and us being creative, that's where it started.
That's amazing. So let's talk about this, back to after Polly's.
Can't believe I said that.
No, it's good.
I can't believe I said that myself.
No, it's good. I'm sure.
I gave some high schoolers a technique. Right now,
I hope that's not what they get out of this. I really do hope, because when I said he's dealing something else now, I mean that he's actually bringing peace to people's lives through the gospel. Amen. So let's establish that.
Let us land.
Yeah, let's land, right? Don't tie it up right now. But back to the loneliness and then leaving Poly.
Okay.
So you get out of Poly now. What's life like?
So basically, halfway through senior year, I say I'm gonna stop smoking so much. Really, because I never got caught by my parents, even though there was a lot going in and out of that house. But basically, it's so funny because we were freestyling, me and my brother in our room, and we were cursing. And my parents are pastors, so all of a sudden I'm in my room and I hear, this is what you guys doing? So my heart dropped. And basically the Holy Spirit convicted both of us and we said, we're going to turn over a new leaf.
Wow.
And so we threw out all this stuff and we basically cleaned up our music and we said, that it was on the day before Christmas.
Wow.
So
what year?
2019. So going into 2020,
Mm-hmm.
my senior year of high school, my second half of my senior year. So, and COVID started that. But that loneliness and that kind of depression, it turned into again, when that language is introduced to me, when I learned, depression, when I learned that word, everything really changed. Because it was really when I learned it, because then I would look it up and then I'd hear someone say something and then I'd begin to describe myself as that.
And then it became
so much more.
Did you feel like it made it more real or more worse? Or worse, rather?
It made it so much worse. Like knowing what to call things, and it made it so much worse.
That is wild, man.
Because it's like I know how to express. When you say it, I can use more words to express it.
But it goes to the power of words too, though. Because now, what was to you a feeling or an experience that maybe was momentary and sometimes lasted longer than other times? Now you've put a word to it and you've declared yourself to be it.
With it. And so during that time in senior year, I was writing a lot. So I'd basically just be writing how I'm feeling. I used to do these checking in with myself, which sounds like something healthy to do, but when you're introduced to that language and you're a smart guy like me, you're putting together these constructions. So I remember I was saying something. I was like, loneliness is like starving. Like I just described it, and I would make these my English teachers loved it. It was beautiful, poetic constructions.
Wow.
But I was making these constructions and then I just began to feel hollow. Like I began to feel hungry. Like I began to feel starved. So
like you're sinking the more, like you're writing these things and they're calling it art and they're loving it, but you're sinking. And that's the experience of a lot of artists, I think. I think that probably accounts for the reason why, in that community, there's a lot of suicide. There's a lot of...
And, because these are things I'm making for music, too. Like, write how you feel for music.
And you're putting that out.
And you're putting that out. And so people are singing them songs, too. Okay, and part of it is good. Like, you're making music that people identify with. It's a huge gratification when someone can say, yo, say that song, thank you for your song, because you put how I felt into words. But it was only after I put out so when I left, during my senior year of high school, I was working on my first album, and this album was like, I want it to be good. I want it to be really good. I want to produce it myself. So I taught myself how to produce. I taught myself how to write music, and I basically spent
smart kid.
Yeah. So during 2020, the whole year, I was home, and I taught myself everything about music: how to master, mix, engineer, sound, record. I have pictures of myself this is all on my Instagram, so you can scroll back to 20. You can watch this whole thing.
I'm gonna do that.
You can literally watch
everything
from 2016 when I started Poly. Watch the whole thing, and like the skits, the you could see in my eyes at the time in my eyes. I'm just like from smoking so much, but after I left Poly, like even during that whole New Kids. When I was doing New Kids, I was doing something. Doing something and being great does not mean your life is in a good place. Even have an impact. It doesn't substitute. Like it doesn't replace feeling good about yourself. Even if you're doing great things, even if people say you're proud, it doesn't change when you're like you feel hollow inside.
Talk about
And I was born again. I was born again since I was 10 years old. So this is happening all while going to church on Sundays.
Wow.
And everything like that too.
Wow.
So that's what I always like to say in support of the Oasis. We can get to that.
I want us to close on that like really high note. But before we get to that, I'm hearing the hollowness and loneliness. I'm hearing the being high for 2 years or whatever. These are things that are hard for parents to notice. Because you live in a 2-parent household, which is a huge advantage. That's a privilege. But somehow, and not due to no fault of theirs, because same thing with my parents, right? Why do you think it's so hard for parents sometimes to notice these things?
I mean, part of it is they didn't train with the language because they didn't really have that language themselves. So, they don't.
But do you think that it's possible for them to have like observed?
Maybe. I mean, during those times, there were moments where like I was crying and they comforted me, but they didn't really know the whole story. But
they didn't understand. Maybe because I'm thinking of a number of things. I'm thinking of maybe they just. First of all, the first thing is the weight of responsibility. Mm-hmm. You can have so much you need to do that you're on the go, and you miss certain things. Then the second part of it is also, like you said, like not having context for what you're going through in that moment. Maybe because for me, my parents, I mean, they never had time to even like feel, the way that I felt when I was like, 15 and before I gave my heart to Christ. They didn't have time for that because like they were hustling. My dad was hustling from like when he was like a young kid. So I'm wondering if that accounts for the them not being able to say. But that's that if it was something you didn't observe, it's fine.
No, I mean, just as a response, it wasn't like that. Yeah, my parents were always around. My dad worked and he's always around. My mom always around. I see my parents like all the time. I never.
And they couldn't tell you were high.
No, no one will be able to tell. Like,
okay, let's talk about Oasis now. Let's talk about.
No, I think it's important. Like, just that point. Like, just my parents. Because I during that time I was depressed. That's the first time I came to them and told them. Like at the end of 2020, I was like, yo, this is getting too much. Because at the end of 2020 is when suicidal thoughts came, and that's when it was like, yo, this is. Because I'm like, yo, I've been dealing with this alone, but this is getting scary now. Because I'm skateboarding and there's the thought, what if you just swerve right into that? Because, when you're skating, you're literally right next to cars. Like, what if you just do that? Thoughts. Meditating on those thoughts. Like, I'm like, yo. So I had to tell my parents because I'm like this is getting like,
too much.
This is getting scary. Like, this is getting scary. I'm having these thoughts. Like, I'm thinking these thoughts in. I put out the whole album basically it's still out. I want to take it down. But there's a whole album that basically tells how I felt during that whole time. And like the obsession with girls, being high all the time, feeling lonely. That album basically tells that whole story of that. But when that was in 2021, so I told my dad that right before I released my album, and I always would quote this as the moment that changed my life, because he just came into my room, said what's up, and he just chilled in my bed, and then I just broke down crying. I don't like, we were just talking, I just broke down, and he leads me to the script. I see. It's been kind of a while, but it's the scripture that goes, for His grace is sufficient for you. For in weakness, His strength is made perfect. When I heard that, I was like, wait, what? It's okay. Like, it's okay for me to feel. It's okay for me to be weak. Like, I don't have to show these things, because actually, when I'm weak, it's when
the strength of
God
Christ is made manifest.
When I heard that, literally depression left from that day. Just left. Oh, my whole life changed, left. And before I used to struggle, I used to write down I used to tally days without negative thoughts. Tally them. The struggle was gone. Literally,
just like that.
Just one night, gone. I mean, I still put out the album, and I was still like, in a way, I don't want to say healing, because I was healed, but I was still like learning, but gone. Just from that, him telling me that moment changed my life forever. Wow. And that was spring, so that's when I was doing the whole New Kids project with my school. Like, so that's when things were shaping up, And
that's a defining moment.
And it was 2 months after that I met Sister Nana right outside of K Street Metro Tech.
Let's talk about that.
That was that moment. So, okay, I want to give...
So you're one of the cool kids of the Oasis?
Okay.
Of the Oasis?
Yes.
So... And it's funny because, like, you know, when you started to tell me this story, and I realized that it's only been 2 years.
Yeah.
I was amazed because I was like, yo. So tell us what it was like.
So, tiny bit of context, but I think it's so relevant, and I'm not gonna put any names in this. But in high school, I was so obsessed with one girl. Like, so she was the reason why I went to poly. I saw her on orientation, and I was like, I'm going to this school. She's the reason. And if she ever sees this, she probably like.
You think she'll know?
She will so know, because I told her like after everything, but I was so like, bro, head over heels obsessed. Like, and you know,
pretty girls go to college.
Mixing obsession of loneliness in high school, toxic, but so obsessed with her. And after I left, you know, she had boyfriends in high school, so you can only imagine that. But after I left poly, I kind of got over her, but basically, during that time when I was beginning to glow, you know, everyone on Instagram was like, yo, Akil, you're doing big things, you know, you're making money from your school, like, how do you partner with a private school? This is a private school that's been there since the Civil War.
Yeah.
This is an institution, you're on that page, like, making music, and they're like, you're doing so great. So, basically, she hits me up, and then we start going on not past her face. But she hits me up and we start.
You know what they say about when you have money.
She hits me up and we start going out. That's a whole other thing. But we start going out, and basically, we on a random day, not even a random day, the decided day, we were in the area right by NYU. We weren't planning to be there. We were planning to be somewhere else. Like, literally looking back, I don't know why we were there. Because we just found ourselves sitting on a bench at this park, just hanging out. And then a girl comes up to me. She sits down and she's like, I always remember this. This is the day that changed my life. She goes, hi, I want you to listen to me. Okay, so just as a precursor, I was praying for the girl. I need to be sure not to name drop her. I was praying for the girl because my life was going good and I was building my relationship with God. So I was like, oh, I want this girl to know Christ. Right? But I didn't really know how to do it. I was especially because I was so in love with this girl. I was like, I don't really want to go down that way.
Let's not mess it up.
Let's not mess it up. So, but I prayed for her on Sunday, and this was a Thursday. And so she comes and she was like, I want you to listen to me with your heart, not your mind. And I'm like, what is this girl talking about? But then she begins to speak about...
And that's Nana talking.
This is Nana talking. And she can
Shout out Nana.
this. She can confirm because she remembers this name. Yeah. And she begins to speak about Jesus. And I'm like, whoa, because I prayed about this.
Whoa.
And so basically I was like, okay, like, this is great. You know, we talked for a little bit. She gets led to Christ there, which is awesome.
Wow.
Yeah, and you know, she was...
That's interesting. That's amazing.
She was she was like, I'm not really sure about this, but I was encouraging her because I was praying about it earlier in the week. I was like, so amazing. And she invites me to cell meeting. We don't go because we were out that day. But I was like, no, let's go. Because at this point, like, so much is happening in my life, and I'm kind of over that obsessive phase with the girl. Mm-hmm. So I genuinely want to help her and because you know my life is going great.
The way that you want it to go.
And I start attending cell meetings, and really the rest is history. But the thing about those cell meetings, I was hearing things. You know, I've been raised Christian. But it's this thing at some meetings, I'm hearing things and it just gets me excited. Like, you feel it.
It's that campus ministry.
Yeah, that,
like,
I'm just like,
je ne sais quoi.
And it's like, in the cell meeting, it's maybe like, it was a small group, so about 6 people. But I was always there. First person, like, as soon as 9 p.m. on Thursday, I was there. Like, before, you know, when I first started, I didn't go to first couple cell meetings because I was... You know, anyway, we can cut that out. We can cut that out in post.
We'll put a blip.
But me and the girl, we would go out on Thursdays. But after a while, I was like, we have to reschedule because I have to be there. So she didn't really get it. I mean, I had background, but that like ignited the flame. So I was like, yo, you're dealing. So it kind of turned into a thing where, and that's why
Did she ever go to the cell meeting with you?
She went twice. She went to a couple times. But it turned into a thing where, and I told my members this, if you, like the new ones. And
he said my members to let you know that he's now
I'm a cell leader. Now I told my members this. I'm like, the leader dating the
and cell leader being like Bible study, like a Bible study group, yeah.
Yeah,
for those who may not know what a cell is.
A cell is like a Bible study group. Yeah. So the leader leading the leader dating the person they're leading, it does not work.
Doesn't work.
It doesn't work. Don't do it. Because that's where friction began to come between me and this girl. Because I'm like, please, like you have to understand, like this is the greatest thing, and it doesn't translate well when you're cuddling and you're doing other things. Like it doesn't work. It doesn't work. So, so we can. I don't want to talk too much about that girl, but basically, it does not end well at all. Wow. At all. But if I wasn't in Oasis, bro, I don't know where my head would have been. Wow. Because how that situation ended. But as it was happening, the most joyous time in I'm looking at my phone, looking at a text that is like, it would cause someone's heart to stop.
Wow.
But I'm looking at this and I'm just putting it, I'm like, I'm listening to Love Roads. I'm listening to Pastor Chris. I'm going to Summit. Like, literally display of God, because it would make, especially
what would have depressed you before, what would have had you holler before.
I was so obsessed with girl. Literally, she would not text me back, and it would send me into a depressive episode. Wow. Now, dude, something 1,000 times worse. I'm just like, woo, glory! Because I'm going to like best time in my life, and this is when I just actually entered campus at Cooper for the first time in 2021.
And you started a fellowship there as well.
Yeah, so I'm learning about soul winning. I'm winning souls. Like even though this, I'm learning about winning, and it's the most fun. Like I'm like, my life. It's when you're actually begin to live the Christian life. Your life becomes a roller coaster. It's like an upwards roller coaster, thrilling. So, and it's becoming, Sister Nana, the best cell leader ever. Wow. Takes her time. Thursdays, before somebody, she used to have one-on-ones with me. We used to go to the coffee shop. I used to buy her hot chocolate, and she would tell me, look in the mirror, read the scripture, and this isn't a big copy. She said, look in that mirror, say those words to yourself. Take me soul winning before class. Go soul winning at Cooper. And
I think to myself sometimes, and shout out to Nana again, but I think to myself sometimes, right? That day that she went out and met with you, what if she didn't go out? Because you had prayed a prayer, and she was literally the answer to that prayer. Yeah. What if she didn't go out?
What if she didn't?
And then the second thing that I wonder is how many more transformation stories like yours exist out in the world, but because one person didn't go out, it didn't happen.
And I think about I won so many souls for one conversation. Like, if he didn't come
and you've impacted many lives.
So many people.
It was such a beautiful moment for me, and I think we'll start to wrap up here. I think we're way past time at this point.
Okay.
I'm trying to get the signal. Okay, we're past time at this point. But one very touching moment for me was when your friend Gotti got baptized at Thai conference, and how emotional that experience was for you. Because I think Nana was there as well. Yeah. Nana watching you, who had already been baptized, watching your member getting baptized, and it's just like an amazing thing. It really shows full circle what the Lord expects, like in terms of, your life being transformed by Him, and then you going forward to transform another life, and then and so on and so forth. This has been a really, really awesome
Oasis story. That's an Oasis story right there.
Yeah, so we shouldn't call it the drug dealer story anymore.
I was literally thinking about that when you said Ex-drug dealer.
I think I was still thinking I'll consider that.
Okay.
But thank you so much, everyone, for listening. This has been so amazing. If you have any feedback, comments, you can reach out to us on atypicalpodcastshow.com or email us at atypicalpodcast.show, not .com. So atypicalpodcast.show, not .com, atypicalpodcast.show. And you can email us at hello@atypicalpodcast.show. And if you'd like to reach out to
Akil,
my
Instagram is akil.la. Yeah.
What's your King's chat?
Akil Foster 821.
That's a lot. Thank you very much, everyone. And till next time, God bless you.